What are you supposed to think when two stories told doesn't match each other? When data and witness testimonies goes in different directions? That's the dilemma that the investigators are struggling with right now after the crash in Mayfield, Kentucky on the 18th of September 2025, where a Cessna Citation CJ4 overshot the runway, left the airfield perimeter, crossed a road, and ended up as unwanted guests after slamming inside a nearby house. The pilot claims that the brakes didn't work, and that might be true, but the data that we looked in this video shows a different picture. On short final, the pilot was not stabilized. He was doing over 200 miles per hour just a few miles before touching down on the runway. That's very fast. What could back up the pilot's story is a crash that happened 10 years ago in Brazil, where another citation experienced similar difficulties with the brakes and crashed outside the airfield perimeter. Investigators later learned that the brakes indeed did fail in this crash, but they also discovered that the crew failed to use the right procedure, which was to use the emergency brake that is installed in this plane. So in this video, I'm going to explore why there is differences between what the pilot experienced and what the data tells us. Let's start with what the pilot told the investigators. He was flying the plane back from maintenance, and as he was coming down on short final, he pulled out the speed brakes, put down the gear and flaps a little later than he actually had planned because he was fast. But he said that the plane felt stable as he was doing his final approach. After touchdown, he raised the spoilers and he pressed firmly on the brakes, but he did not sense that they were working. So he pushed even harder and the plane started to veer to the right, and that's when he decided that he would try to go around, but he figured out that there wasn't enough runway left. So he just had to go with it, and the plane went through the fence at the end of the runway, crossed Kentucky Route 58, and eventually hit the house on the other side of the road. Amazingly, both the pilot and the people inside the house could walk away unharmed. The weather was very hot with clear skies and a light wind, so basically a perfect day for flying. But notice what we're missing here. The pilot never mentioned using any emergency brakes. He says that the plane didn't break, but does not mention anything about using the emergency brake. This aircraft has a small handle that's located under the instrument panel, just under the control column. And if you pull it, you will use a bottle of compressed air to power the brakes if the normal hydraulic systems fail. This plane normally uses a hydraulic system and also have anti-skid systems that prevents the brakes from locking up the wheels. And in case this system fails, the pilots are trained to lift off, extend the spoilers, lift their feet off from the brakes, and then pull the emergency brake and let the plane handle itself. But in this case, he did not mention it and he did not do it. Soon after the accident, I made a video where I analyzed the flight data and we compared this landing to previous landings done by the same jet. And normally this jet comes down to about 120, 130 knots just before crossing the threshold. This time, the jet was flying over 200 knots, 1.5 miles away from the runway. So there was no chance that this plane could have reduced speed to anywhere near enough that the plane would be able to cross the runway at a safe speed. It was a hot day and the air was thinner, and that does increase your speed a little bit, but the usual landing speed is around 105 to 110 knots. And this plane was simply not able to decelerate that fast over that short a distance. The runway at Mayfield is 5,000 feet long. And under ideal conditions, the CJ4 usually needs around 2,940 feet to stop. So in a normal day, the airfield is plenty long for this plane. But there isn't much room for mistakes, and you need to touch down at the right spot, at the right speed, and get the spoilers out, and use your brakes quickly. And the initial analysis indicated that speed was the main problem and the reason why this plane overshot the runway, and not that the brakes failed. But could the brakes have failed? For sure they could. So what do we do when someone's telling something and the data simply doesn't add up? The pilot says he was braking, and he was pretty clear that he was using the brakes, but they did not work. I'm suggesting that they did not work because he was coming in too hot. He was coming in way too fast, and he didn't feel a strong deceleration like he normally would feel when using the brakes, because the anti-skid system activated to prevent the tires from blowing up, blocking. And that might have been the reason that he didn't feel that the brakes were working. When he then pushed harder, the plane started veering to one side, but then it was too late because he was too far down the runway to do anything about it. And then again, this could have been handled with a pull of the emergency brakes, but he never mentioned anything about using the emergency brake. So there are several aspects of this crash that it doesn't add up, and that's kind of interesting. Like I mentioned in the intro, this isn't the first time a citation crew have thought that the brakes didn't work on a hot day. In June 2014 in Brazil, a Citation CJ1 landed on a short runway, and the crew said that the brakes did not work. Investigators did find problems with the brakes, but again, in this situation, they didn't use the emergency brakes the way they should. The captain pulled the wrong lever. He was supposed to pull the emergency brake lever, but pulled the auxiliary gear lever that's supposed to bring the gear down in case the plane's gear doesn't come down by itself. The pilot only had 38 hours of experience in this model, and he had not been trained on the emergency brakes. In this crash, investigators blamed poor training and a poor placed emergency brake handle as the main reason. And as we can see on the picture here, you have to know where it is to use it, because it is blocked from view by the steering column, and if you don't know it's there, then it's out of sight. The investigators did recommend redesigning the handle and emphasized on emergency brake training. So we have two cases of experienced pilots, but with probably relatively low time on the specific jet, coming in fast on a hot day, reporting no brakes, and they did not use the emergency brake in either case. Could the brakes really have failed? Of course they could. Maybe the electrical brake motor died. That would kill the normal brakes and show a low brake pressure warning inside the cockpit. The pilot does not mention this, but of course he could just have overlooked it, or the light may not have shown up at all. There has been cases where switches have failed to illuminate even though the brake system failed. Even so, the emergency brake system should still have worked. So far, investigators haven't found any broken parts. We've not seen any final reports yet, but that will for sure be in that report. What we do know is that the plane was very fast and the pilot did not use the emergency brakes. That's a fact. Until the final report comes out, that points more to pilot error than mechanical failure. But what can we learn? Well, slow down, do a stable approach. You can't land on a 5,000 feet runway at 200 knots and expect to stop in time. Second, you have to know your aircraft. These jets in particular have two brake systems, a normal hydraulic brake system with anti-skid and a emergency air-powered brake that you use if all other measures fail. The pilot should have trained to practice this procedure. I do not know if he has or if he hasn't. I would like to know if citation pilots learn this doing type rating. Third thing, design also matters. In the Brazilian accident, the emergency handle was hidden from pilot view, and he did pull a wrong lever. So that for sure also has an impact. So training and a better cockpit layout could perhaps have prevented this from going as bad as it did. Finally, what you feel isn't always what's actually happening. A pilot might feel that the brakes have failed when in fact the plane is just doing what it's designed to do. The anti-skid system prevents the wheels from locking up if you're too fast and you're or on a slippy surface. You don't want your brakes to or your wheels to block and cause you to veer off the runway. So the system was perhaps just working, and if he had kept pressure on the brakes, he might have stopped the plane. And if the brakes failed, then he should have used the emergency braking system. So accident analysis must now balance what the pilot experienced and look at the hard data. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these deep dives, please like and subscribe. That means a lot to me. And tell me in the comments whether you think the pilot story will hold up when the NTSB releases their final report. And if you fly a citation, please let me know if you have gotten training in using the emergency brake system, and if you've ever experienced a braking issue yourself with the citation. Until the next one, stay safe.